My Hero Academia, Season 3, Episode 20, titled Save the World with Love, is a bit of a special case, and a lot of people were kind of questioning why exactly this episode is here. And it very much reveals itself in bits and pieces throughout the episode, exactly why this episode is where it is and why it's the way it is. But we open up with All Might basically explaining to the audience and to Deku that this will be a special side story that takes place before the start of the third season and is a bit of an I guess you could say, intermittence in between the provisional license exam. Um, It'll be a nice special anime story, and then it'll get right back to it right after this. This could also kind of be seen as a way of padding things out so they meet their episode quota, because the provisional license exam is rapidly coming to a close, like very soon. So eh, they need something to kind of pad things out, I feel. So we open up with a very nice preview of, if anybody's seen the trailers to the My Hero Academia movie, these are some of the scenes that are showed there. We have Cementos, Midnight, and All Might just viewing this special on All Might's time in America. It's part of this special promotion they have going on. But honestly, it's just a way of people getting reminded, hey, My Hero Academia has a movie coming out soon. Go check it out when you can. And you got all this nice preview of a young All Might and all that good stuff. For the longest time, we had wanted to see what All Might looked like without the blackened in, dark, sunken eyes. And there you go. It's just like, honestly, it's nothing really special, but it feels kind of good just to see like the bright smiling face he has going on. And Cementos is much of a fanboy, saying that back when he was a child, he was very much a fan. We also see Dave, um, who had designed All Might's hero costume, something that was able to greatly stand up to the various, you know, I guess you could say, intensity of a lot of the things that All Might would do. Ultimately, it did end up breaking down, but it was only during the massive fight between All Might and All for One, which, was a very tough villain. So the fact that there was even anything left goes to show that this guy knows his stuff, and he knows how to design stuff that's durable and suitable for a wide variety of heroes. Um, All Might notices that he got a email, but he kind of brushes it off since he has a class to go teach. This is kind of a supplementary class, just for students who want to be there. It's not a forcible thing. And it's just a bit of extra hero training, which will involve Cementos, Midnight, and President Mike, as well as All Might. It's one where there's a hostage situation with a villain, and the students must figure out the best way of approaching the situation and rescuing the hostages. Todoroki takes this opportunity to call in to the villain and kind of distract them, while Uraraka floats up to the window to get a glimpse of things. She sees that there's one villain and three hostages. However, Bakugo gets fed up with all the covert bull, and he goes rushing in immediately, just blasting in through the front door. However, once the smoke clears, they find the hero dead. I mean, the villain dead. Not to worry, Froppy goes in and brushes All Might's nose with her hair, and he giggles a little bit, showing that he is indeed actually alive. It's just like he's playing the part of a villain who has been murdered. So they have a situation on their hands. Bakugo asks Uraraka how if she saw anything at that point, but Uraraka said there was too much smoke from when Bakugo blasted down the doors. Now they have to figure things out, and they come to the realization that one of the murderers had to have been one of the hostages. They question the hostages, with Cementos playing the role of a jewelry store employee who was the first to be tied up. Midnight was the second one to come in, and she was promptly tied up as well. And with Present Mike being the third one to come in, also being tied up. All their stories kind of match up with no real deviations. They check everyone's wallet, showing that they did in fact have enough money to buy jewelry. Um, when Bakugo goes on to say that, you know, one of them had to have been the culprit, there had to be something greater behind it. You know, that's all it had to be. It was just a robbery. You know, Todoroki kind of questions this, as well as Froppy, saying that, you know, it made no sense for the villain to still be in the store and for the jewels to still just be there. You know, if one of them was the culprit, why didn't one of them make off with the jewelry? Um, when questioned about this, you know hostages say that none of them, were involved in any way, shape, or form, which is natural they'd say this, but also none of them say that they noticed that anybody else was a villain. Um, Ida comes back from checking the back way, saying that everything's closed up tight, and they ultimately come to the conclusion that it might be best to leave this to the police. Deku, however, questions the fact that if the jewelry is right here, you know, well, why didn't the villain just make a run for it before the police showed up? Why, is the jewelry just sitting off to the side like, he didn't even want it? Cemento says that, after the police immediately arrived after he was tied, he put the jewelry in the bag and he was tied up. So Deku comes to the conclusion that it had to be the second person, Midnight, who informed the police. He gives a recap saying that apparently before she entered, she called the police, entered, and she suggests that there was some kind of tete-a-tete between, the villain and Midnight. And then she was tied up because the villain wanted to continue on with his criminal activity. And that's when the police arrived. However, they also weave a story saying that, Midnight had been trying to convince the villain to stop his evil ways, and ultimately, none of the hostages is the murderer, as it was actually the villain himself who committed suicide, which is a pretty dark way for this whole story to go, as he didn't want to have Midnight involved in the whole, situation and have her kind of arrested on criminal charges, just as an accessory because she knew about his criminal ways and didn't report it previously to the police. Ultimately, Midnight breaks down and Aizawa comes in, dismissing everyone, saying that they've done it was well done. They figured everything out and they did a very perfectly admirable job, and he congratulates Midoriya on solving the mystery. Ultimately, however, he says that everyone has actually failed and not passed the test, as they overlooked one thing, and they end up noticing that All Might's body is gone and he is racing off into the distance. Because of the fact that Froppy did in fact check to see that All Might was still alive, they kind of brushed it off since it was a training exercise as the villain, just playing dead. But in reality, All Might was playing the part of a villain who was playing dead, and the fact that they didn't follow up on that and tie the villain up ultimately causes them to have failed, which Bakugo promptly calls out, and I agree with this, that's a load of bull. They are left stunned at the fact that they failed over a technicality. Meanwhile, All Might arrives back at the office and checks his email. It's a email from the daughter of his best friend David from America, saying that she wants him to come to America for this big scientific expo they're having on Island, and it'll be a big surprise to her father. And All Might reminisces about how he, you know, was very close friends with David, and they had a good, you know, loving relationship where there was a lot of support for everything that All Might did and had to do. That's something we don't really get to see too often, just the amount of support that All Might really has. I think I've seen it in other series. I think in all My Hero Academia Vigilantes, you see All Might's original office, but anything beyond that, you don't really see too much of. So I love the, you know, supportive relationship they have going on, kind of like the kind of like his sidekick, more or less. So I'm very excited for the My Hero Academia movie. I'm pumped because this all leads right into the movie, with All Might arriving at Midoriya's house to invite him to go to Island. Only downside is it's immediately, like, we're going now. So the movie picks up exactly after this episode, which takes place right before season 3. So it's a little mismatch right there. But, the excitement is real for the movie. It's a nice little promotion. A lot of anime series do these things where they have a bit of a tie-in, a kind of segue into the movie. I know a lot of people will be a little disjointed by this, but at the same time, this is kind of like almost tradition for, you know, animated series. It's just like you gotta get in that little tie in to the movie. Gotta promote it, gotta promote it. The real question is, will anything from the movie end up tying back in to the manga? And ultimately the anime itself, because some series do that from time to time. Fairy Tail recently did that with the 100 Year Quest, where they talked a little about, they've had like filler involved in their manga, and then something in the movie was referenced in the manga. So, there's tie ins here and there. Even Naruto had that as well, where one of the seven swordsmen of the mist was actually brought in to the manga and made like canon with his weaponry and everything. So, you never know what might end up being actual canon in the terms of a series. Even One Piece had that with Gold Lion Shiki, although the actual canon of his involvement and everything is kind of shaky. So once this movie comes out, be on the lookout. If you're a manga reader and anime watcher, be on the lookout for it if something really ends up being very ingrained into the series, because you never know how much of an impact the first movie might have on the series as a whole. But that's all I really have to say about this. We get back to business as usual with the whole intervention of Gang Orca and all that good stuff. And it'll be just fun to get back into the actual hero learning stuff. But this was a fun story, getting to see the kids actually legit going through a real training exercise. Because it feels like we haven't really gone through a legit one for a long time. It's been a lot of training and battling actual villains and stuff like that. But, to have an actual straight up training exercise is always fun, because this is My Hero Academia. Academics, you're learning something. So, get your learn on. Learn a little something about what it takes to be a hero. And look out for that My Hero Academia movie. Thanks so much for joining me. Tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. Tell me if you're excited for the movie. Leave me a like or a dislike depending on if you liked what I had to say. And subscribe for more My Hero Academia. Thanks for joining me.